Hey everybody, it's your old pal Chuck, and finally we're getting to a review that I've been meaning to do for quite a while, but just haven't had a chance to do. Namely, other stuff was coming in that I felt you guys would enjoy more, and you know, stuff I wanted to do. But here it is, from Transformers Legacy. This is the Wave 2 Leader Class figure, Blitzwing. Blitzwing is a triple changer based on its original G1 toy. I got this figure from Amazon, which, if you think back a few months, Amazon was one of the last places to get Blitzwing in stock. This figure has been found in brick and mortar, other online retailers, and even the online websites of brick and mortar retailers. Surprisingly, though, I haven't seen a lot of reviews going around. And I think a lot of that has to do with the promotional pics, the early images of this figure that kind of made the vehicle modes look a little off. And let me just tell you, in hand, Blitzwing looks fine. It looks like a fun figure. Yes, there are certain aspects to it that might seem a little off, but that really has to do with how we remember versus the reality. For example, a lot of us don't remember the protruding cockpit here. That was basically because the G1 toy didn't have it. But in the cartoon, it was drawn like that. Now, I'm sure Hasbro could have. Has to do with, well, frankly, really weren't paying attention to one specific part of the Blitzwing tank when we watch the cartoon. Obviously, if we go back now, we'll see it because it's in our mind. But at the time, it was really like we saw the tank on the screen, and we're also possibly just a positioning the image of the figure in our mind with how the toy looked in hand. And once we get through all that, really in hand, and I'm going to admit, even looking through my camera, the figure does not look that bad, and it's actually quite enjoyable. Now, the figure does have a few accessories, so let's take a look at them. First, the biggest bone of contention, I think, are these Energon clear plastic gauntlets. This is part of the overall modular weapon gimmick of the Legacy line. You don't need to use these. I'm not going to in terms of display. And unfortunately, this is all you're going to be able to see of them because the instructions show putting the hands into what would be the wrist shells. And I don't know if it's the temperature in my house or just the fit. I cannot get these out. And unfortunately, clear plastic shell, clear plastic hand. I'm not forcing it because I'm afraid of breaking a peg. So there are these. Now, coming back to Blitzwing's traditional weapons, as we are joined by her royal furs, the Princess Delilah Bijou. Starting off, Blitzwing, we have Blitzwing's rifle. And this looks very much like the old toy and cartoon weapon. As Delilah starts nibbling. You get two of these in the package for some reason. I'm only using one. They look exactly the same. And then the final accessory, which I think is Blitzwing's most iconic, is its sword. For whatever reason, back in the 80s with Diaclone, they like giving the figures swords. Now, I should mention that once you start working the way up the blade, the tip, yes, right where Delilah's sniffing, is a little bit on the soft side. And it might come a little warped out of package, but it straightens itself out. So now that we've gone ahead and moved those off to the side, there's really nothing more to the tank. It rolls quite well, which is surprising since the wheels and casters do get folded around for various modes, and it may not necessarily lay flat. The turret can rotate, and the barrel go up and down. and you know, you can get in different positions, even though the tension, you either want it completely straight or up at that more pronounced angle. I prefer keeping it right about there. That looks more like a traditional tank. Well, that's about it for the vehicle mode. For tank mode, we'll pause, allow me to readjust things, and we'll get into the transformation to jet mode. Okay, I've gone ahead and adjusted the camera slightly, giving us a little more room. Now, the instructions I should mention show you going from tank to robot to jet. I've always preferred with triple changers doing vehicle to robot mode. And what's nice is because of the new closed packaging on leader class figures, Blitzwing comes packaged in its tank mode. So you can do that. And as Delilah's telling us, the first step is to start off by opening up the top of the tank turret here and folding the barrel up and away. And next what you want to do is rotate it around so now that the front of the barrel is facing forward again. The next step is very carefully, because this part here is actually the robot mode arms. You don't want to move those yet. What you want to do is move the treads that are underneath, come around and peg them into place, like so. And you do have the fake fins that will be there in robot mode. Now what I suggest you can do is go ahead and pop up the back section here that pegs into place right along the thrusters. Oh, unpeg these first. Unpeg these back side panels, and these actually peg also into the arms. So you're going to see the arms getting moved around a little bit. That's okay. You're going to have to move them anyway, as Delilah tries to take a little nip at me. And then what we're going to do is, you see that there's a double hinge here. You want to rotate this panel over on the double hinge so that little tab there goes into the slot there. Not that difficult, actually. And you can actually give yourself a little room just by lifting up the tank turret, which we would have to do anyway at some point. And once that's all secured in place, you might hear a snap. Go ahead, fold the fake fins down so they can sit flush, just like that. And at this point, you can start maybe bringing the tank turret back. There's two tabs right there on that base of that hinge that will sit into some slots there. And then you just go ahead and pop up this whole section. And maybe to make your life a little easy, start bringing up that landing gear to come through the front. You're just gonna, there's really isn't like a fixed way to hold this. You're just giving yourself some room. Speaking of which, come around to where the thrusters are and flip out these fins. And you want to do them now, because the next step is you're going to split the legs to allow you to get in to the side to fold out the wings. And if you try to do this after the wings are out, they'll bump into each other. And yes, you can actually angle out the arms a little to give yourself a little more room. So just fold these out just like so. Straighten them out, you know. They do peg in to the back of the legs here, but not perfectly. Well, most of the tabs do. The final tabs that are on the tip of these wings, they don't. So peg the legs back together. And now comes the big part where you're going to unpeg the arms. I think it's easier to see from this way. And bring them down on that another double hinge, and they will peg into place there. Now don't worry, that's not going to be the only mounting point, securing point for the arms. And yeah, they do peg more tight. They peg tighter into the arms, into the shoulder area than they do down here. But there's also going to be some tabs and slots. They're going to help hold them into place, which we're going to introduce now. And you're just going to bring this back panel back down, peg this down into place. Might have to do a little wiggle jiggle, make sure everything is Copus Mendi. At this point, the legs do have a tendency to maybe slightly become unpegged. So if you have a problem with these back tabs getting in, make sure the legs are pegged into place. But everything should come down. That's secured. Make sure the front of the legs here are flush with the front. Go ahead and peg that panel back into place. Hopefully you remember to flip out the landing gear because it's easier to do it that way. You can angle these fins slightly. Bring down these fins just like so. And then finally we come to the cockpit where you can open it up and flip out the nose cone. And I got to be honest with you, there's a very tight joint. I end up having to use the sword blade to do it. Unfortunately, there's a little scuffing right there, but you do notice also that there is a fake canopy as well as the real one for the jet. And there is the jet mode all finished up. And sorry if the camera got a little jostled when Delilah was visiting. You know, I'd like to not show the size of the light box because there's a little gappage there, but all in all, not a bad transformation. And allow me to also stress that, again, much like the tank mode, yes, there's this underside kibble. It's not that bad. It really isn't. It helps support the jet. I think in the animation model, yes, you just had those big blocks of tank just folding back. I would have preferred to see that, but this really, again, in hand, isn't that bad. Now, you do have ports along the sides. You can peg the weapons in. The thrusters, basically you would fold down the panels that would form the feet, because there's 5mm ports in them, and there's a way to plug these in, but it involves having the hands out, and there just isn't the clearance for it to look right. Again, clear plastic on clear plastic. I'm not chancing it in the breaking. But I do like the jet mode. It is very, very close to the original look of the toy. It's a little beefier, and I know some people, you know, the aeronautic types, you know, this really wouldn't be able to fly, but again, it's Transformers. These are intergalactic robots. If they needed to, they could get a giant battleship flying off the ground. So, to continue our the transformation, we'll go now from jet to robot mode. And I'm just going to adjust the camera up slightly since Blitzwing is going to become a tall boy, or tallish. And really to start, I think the first thing you can do is go ahead and flip the nose cone back up. And just close that up. Next, come underneath, fold up the landing gear, loosen up these panels, everything here on the back, on the sides, all that. Bring that up. Let's go ahead and return the shoulders to their primary positions. Fold up these panels here, the tips of the wings. Angle the arms out slightly, just to, again, give yourself some room to work with. Split the legs, and what we'll do, instead of folding the wings in just now, there's again, double hinge, and then there's a tab and slot inside this hinge that's going to help secure the leg. And let me tell you, the first couple times you do this, it's going to be very tight. That first tab on the inside of the thigh is very tight, and you really got to get a lot of force there to press it down. The second one that is on the knee and pegs into the back of that hinge, not so bad. Go ahead and now fold up the wings. What I recommend is folding the tip down before bringing it in, and as you can see, it doesn't close up all the way, but there are other hinges around the leg that will help hold it in place. Now what you can do is open up the feet. Thrusters just like that. So we actually have the legs done, but you have this huge back section. So before we deal with the back section, let's just go ahead, open up the canopy. Oh, there's only one way. From this position, you want to rotate it back so Blitzwing's head comes out. Oh, I just noticed there's a little like mold flash marling there. And it's not that bad, you know. Who's going to look at the back of the head? But bring that around, close up the panel, and then we're going to go and we're going to bring this backpack up. And this is actually a kind of cool transformation. What you want to do is bring the panel up, bring it back like so. This will start to peg into place, but the way we get that great robot detailing is bringing that, what was the top of the jet mode, over the shoulders like a vest, and this will peg now down into the chest. Flip out these little fins. This is basically, we have fake wings. This is, again, due to the nature of the animation and robot, the animation model being a little bit different from the toy. Now also, the tan section, you would kind of think it would peg into that hinge there, but really it just sits. Finally, to finish off the arms, what you want to do is bend the elbows slightly to bring out that panel. Rotate it down, come inside the arm, flip out the fist, rotate this panel around, and then fold it up again to close the gap in the forearm. And do it again here on this side. Bring that panel down, rotate the fist out, and then rotate it around, and then rotate the fist around, and presto changeo, whammo zammo, we've got Blitzwing in its robot mode. And really cool, really fun. I enjoy it. I think it's a great figure. Articulation, ball jointed head, very expressive. I always like the expressive heads. Interesting thing they do with the arms here. The shoulder pads are fixed into place, but you do have a flap that can open up, so you can get forward and lateral movement. Obviously, you can't do a 360, but why would you want to? I never understood that. You have waist swivel. You have these skirt flaps, which on occasion, the flaps might flip up or down during transformations, so just keep an eye on them. But you do have a universal joint in the hip and an over 90-degree bend there at the knee. And yes, of course, you have ankle pivot, just like that. So a lot of cool, fun things going on with the figure. Unfortunately, again, I'll say I can't do the giant hand mode because I'm not taking the chance of breaking the gauntlets. But we do have his weapons. And on the back here, you have ports for weapon storage. So there you go. I think Blitzwing is a fun figure. I think if you passed on Blitzwing due to the in-hand image, the early in-hand images, the promotional pics, give it another shot, because really think that it's worth a purchase. It's, as I keep saying this about this figure and a lot of figures in general, it's not as bad once it's in hand. So we'll pause and we'll come back with my final thoughts. I almost forgot to mention that Blitzwing surprisingly does have wrist articulation. I guess that's because of the sword, so you can get a little more dynamic posing with the sword. As I've said several times already, Blitzwing's a fantastic figure. Um, I'm happy with the purchase. Yes, the $50 price point might be a little high for some, especially with some accessories that I just don't think would work. And you kind of, when you first take the figure out, you do notice that because it's packaged in tank mode, it's a little small. And it's that kind of small that you're like, you're finding a hard way to justify the price. I do think the extra gun was included to kind of pad things out. Personally, I would have liked to have gotten a more Blitzwing-ish type of accessory, like a football based on the triple takeover episode or something like that. And really, Blitzwing has always been a complex character. Let's not forget, he was someone who kind of fell out with the Decepticons in season 3 and kind of started questioning and rethinking the way things were done. And that was unfortunately something that was never really explored because by that point, the Blitzwing toy was being taken off shelves. Now, as I mentioned, I got this figure from Amazon. I think it's still available there or it's popping in and out of stock, but you can find Blitzwing now at retailers everywhere if it's in stock, online and in brick and mortar. Really worth the purchase, and if you can get it on sale or have a coupon, even better. So this is your old pal Chuck. If you like this review, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It'll help with the algorithms and keeping the channel going. If you really want to have a sign of support, do consider well, just watching the videos and liking and commenting. That's really all I need, because it helps promote the channel and push it forward. We're dealing with algorithms, folks. For Blitzwing, we will see you next time.